Hey, Bastich B here for 64K and welcome to another episode of Top 10s.
Welcome to 64K, hosted by Bastich B.
And welcome back. So in today's Top 10, I'm going to be having a look at my top 10 favorite Commodore 64 games from the year 2000 to 2010. Now, I've already done a list about 2011 onwards, right up to 2022. So if you want to check that one out, it's got a lot of really cool games. But this time period between 2000 and 2010, it was a time that I wasn't really active in the Commodore 64 scene. I wasn't really playing it all that much. So I never even knew most of these games even existed. I thought the games had ended and I never really looked back. But when I started this channel in 2018, I started researching things. I kind of found out that the scene had continued on, and not only that, physical copies of these games were being released. And that's what this kind of video is celebrating. It's a really forgotten period, I feel, in Commodore 64 gaming this decade. It's not really well covered. Anyway, these are the games that I've discovered and I've enjoyed over the last few years. And as per usual with these lists, there'll be a short honorable mentions just before the number one reveal. So let's not waste any more time and get on with this countdown.
Number 10.
Escape from Oz is an enhanced 2008 update released by Cytronic based on a 1994 game by John Wells, who also did a great port of the Wild Bunch to the C64 in 2009. This game takes the form of a flip screen style shoot 'em up where you have become trapped on an alien planet infested with robots. You have to blast your way out, taking out the foes, picking up upgrades to your weapons, and taking out generators, opening up paths to further navigate the maze-like planet and make your ultimate escape. The game sports a quick pace and is fun with a real jetpack styled addictiveness, and due to the really good sound effects and chunky colorful graphics, makes blasting enemies extremely satisfying. It features some excellent music also from Richard Bayless and Feekzoid, and the game also includes as a bonus the original 1994 version. It's a good fun quick game to jump into, published by Cytronic, with physical versions also available for ordering.
Number 9.
Spark was released by Wernersoft in 2010 and is a conversion of a Vectrex game of the same name from 1983. This is an unexpectedly simple yet very enjoyable game that has that addictive one more go feel. It's essentially a platform styled affair where your girlfriend gets kidnapped and you have to rescue her. In the game, you have control of Spark and a ladder to climb up levels as you look for a key. Once you find it, you can unlock the cell at the top of the screen, freeing your girlfriend, who then again promptly gets Princess Peached, with you having to go rescue her all over again. You can kung fu any of the creatures in your way and jump over long gaps as you go through each level. And the game features that really cool vector graphics style of the Vectrex original, and they look and move really well, giving the game a slight 3D look, and makes it feel very much not like any generic C64 platform game out there. The game also controls really well, and the sample speech is excellent, with some fun head-bopping SID tunes, with each level just getting more and more hectic. And it's kind of like an old Atari score chaser in that sense. Just see how far you can get and have fun with it. This game was also available as part of a double pack cartridge release from RGCD. It's a great little gem.
Number 8.
Subhunter was published by Cytronic and was developed by The New Dimension. This game is a relentless, fast-paced, arcade-style shooter with various mini-games thrown in for good measure. A bunch of dodgy experiments gone wrong have mutated the aquatic creatures of the sea. You have to take your trusty submarine and blast your way through levels and rescue swimmers trapped out in the ocean. To progress through each level, all you have to do is collect a set number of swimmers. The game switches from side-scrolling shooter levels with cool parallax scrolling effects to single screen type rescue efforts, where you either depth charge in a bunch of mutant fish so the swimmers can make their way back to shore, or you have to submerge to the bottom of the ocean picking up stranded divers. You got to keep track of your oxygen on each level, which is basically a timer, and extra lives can be picked up in bonus stages. The game is fast and furious, programmed by Richard Bayless, with some absolutely excellent music by Thomas Mogensen, a member of Maniacs of Noise, an epic C64 music group. The game is easy to play, sports really good graphics, graphics and can be played in quick short bursts. And with 25 levels in total, you're in for a real challenge. This game is PAL format only and is also free or name your own price from Cytronic, with a physical version also available.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Metal Warrior 3 was released by Covert BitOps in 2001 and is the third part of this run-and-gun action-adventure series. The game was again done mostly by one man, the maniac Lasse Aone, who did coding, graphics, and some of the music as well. And if you've never played any of his games, then check out Hessian and Steel Ranger and prepare to be amazed. This one continues the story from the previous games, with some of your band members getting captured by the government due to the previous story arc, and you as one of the members, Goat, who escapes to start his revenge spree. The game has all the tropes of the previous entries, with great storytelling, a day-night cycle, which affects the types of enemies encountered, and whether the shops or facilities will be open, more character stats and weapons to buy, and eventually, if you get far enough, multiple characters to switch between during gameplay. And that's the biggest problem here. Getting anywhere in this game is brutally difficult, especially the beginning, which will probably be enough to put most people off, which is a real shame. It's definitely not as well balanced as the excellent Part 4 or the even better Metal Warrior Ultra, featured in my best C64 games from 2011 to 2021 video. Zap64 also reviewed this in a March 2002 review, in which they said, I quote, "just lacking a bit in the challenge stakes," which is hilarious on so many levels. I mean, were they playing the same game? Seriously? Regardless, it's here because it's a good game overall, if you can survive long enough to enjoy it, that is. Joe Gunn Gold Edition was released by Cytronic Software in 2009 in physical form and is a fun puzzle-styled adventure game coded by Jorg Rottensteiner, a frequent collaborator with the Icon 64 team on games such as Barnsley Badger and Soulless. This is a very simple-looking game but very atmospheric, with you playing Joe, an archaeologist who stumbles across an unplundered pyramid in Egypt of a mysterious king whose past has been erased from history. Thus, you decide to traverse this trap and creature-infested place to find out its secrets. The gameplay is mainly puzzle solving, finding items and figuring out where to use them to open up new paths to further explore the pyramid, as well as light platforming elements. The game is pretty big, with over 70 individual rooms to search and explore, with the only negative being that it's not very clear what can and cannot be interacted with, so you're gonna have to partake in some tedious trial and error to get the gist of the interactive elements, although some of the room names do give you clues to that. But besides that, it's a pretty enjoyable experience overall. The main title theme music is also very good by Thomas Peterson, with tons of artifacts to find, with lots of different abilities to experiment with, and plenty of secrets to discover for those eagle-eyed adventurers. Make it another fun game to try out, with a free or name your own price digital version, and a physical one also from Cytronic themselves.
Number 5.
The Wild Bunch was released in 2009 by Cytronic Software and is a conversion of a 1985 game by Firebird, which was originally released on the ZX Spectrum and Amstrad CPC. The game is kind of like an adventure game mixed with elements of the Oregon Trail, in which you find a recently dead guy the same time a sheriff sees you pick up his gun off the ground. You're falsely now on the run from the sheriff for murder, and you now have to clear your name and find the member of the Wild Bunch who committed the crime. You have to go from town to town to track down the Wild Bunch, following clues and avoiding the authorities. You need to manage resources and money very carefully as you make your choices, buying supplies like food and ammo etc. from shops, interacting with townsfolk to get info, and trying not to get yourself into trouble and ending up in a local Hanyun duel. Traveling from town to town takes a set number of days, so getting the right amount of water, food, and extra supplies, and allowing for all those random Oregon Trail type events that will occur, is all part of the very unpredictable fun nature of this game. The graphics are very simplistic in presentation, with a bunch of added graphics and musical enhancements over the 80s originals, with the music and sound effects being particularly impressive, with its main theme will definitely stick in your head for days. And overall, it's just a really enjoyable experience, available from Cytronic Software in both physical and digital forms. BOFH Servers Under Siege is another crazy action game from Covert Bit Ops and that maniac programmer Lasse Arne, and was released in 2002. It's a top-down action game that almost feels like an adaptation of the movie Die Hard, with the action taking place on a 6-story skyscraper with a bunch of dodgy activists taking over the building and taking control of the servers and workstations. You arrive to work and basically go into rage mode and decide to take out all the activists by any means necessary. You can beat them up and take their weapons with tons of cool options like shotguns, handguns, and even flamethrowers. It gets really crazy. Not only do you have to deal with these hooligans, but also defuse all the bombs all over the building as you fight your way up to the server room on the 6th floor. You also pick up key cards which give you clues as to how to defuse the bombs without blowing yourself up. The controls take a little bit getting used to, but after a few minutes it's easy enough, with fast-paced action, good graphics, and really cool sound effects and music. It's a fun game to explore, and unique, with maybe only Crackdown being the only comparison, although this is way better, faster, and much more satisfying. Metal Warrior 4 Agents of Metal was designed by Covert Bit Ops and released in 2003, and is another epic action-adventure game following on directly from the events of the third game. It has the same basic gameplay elements with character interactions and dialogue choices, upgradable armor, and a plethora of cool weapons to play with. This entry also has a much-needed difficulty setting and is also way more balanced and much more fun than the brutally difficult third entry. This game's story takes a cool science fiction twist and is one of the highlights of the series in terms of storytelling and all the really cool environments and locations to explore, with lots of new moves, more interactive indoor and outdoor environments, and even a stealth system which rewards non-lethal takedowns. It has fantastic presentation and music as always from Lasse Arne, and I definitely suggest picking up the physical or digital version of Metal Warrior Quadrilogy from Cytronic as the best way to play this series in its entirety.
Number 2.
Knight and Grail was released in 2009 by Cytronic Software and developed by Wide Pixel Games. When I finally had space to unpack my C64 and jump back into Commodore games in 2017, just before starting this channel, Knight and Grail was the first game I came across when I did a search to see if anyone had been making new C64 games. To my surprise, hundreds of them had been made, and many of them published in physical form as well. I immediately ordered this physical version you see here. The C64 had again hooked me. Grail is a big Metroidvania action-adventure game that brings all the best elements of this genre into a stunning package. As you can see from this map, the game is pretty big, featuring over 200 rooms to explore and puzzles to solve. The basic gameplay has you searching the castle for weapons and armor, each variation giving you new abilities to help you reach different parts of the castle or defeat certain creatures or bosses way more effectively. The goal is to find the Grail, which is said can lift the curse put on the knight and his girlfriend, turning her into a dragon. Like any good Castlevania game, Grail slowly unfolds, giving upgrades at a steady pace, always giving you more new areas to explore and things to do as you search the castle. You have a handy map at your disposal and are able to switch your weapons and armor out at any time to take advantage of all situations. This game has great atmospheric sound effects and music and lush graphics with really well designed rooms and puzzles, which makes Knight and Grail one of the best games of this genre on the old C64 and an absolute must-play game. Okay, so let's just stop this list for a few seconds here and check out some of my honorable mentions. First up is 3 games from Protovision designed to specifically work with their custom 4-player C64 adapter. Tank 3000, Hockey Mania, and Team Patrol, all released between 2003 and 2006 period, and all multiplayer games exclusively, no single player. But if you're into party games, then you got Tank 3000, a really good C64 clone version of Atari's original arcade. Hockey Mania is a fun 2-on-2 slapshot style ice hockey game, and Team Patrol is a cross between Moon Patrol and Decathlon. It's pretty bizarre. With Protovision and the C64 scene continuing to support this add-on, with tons of games now available in the 3 or 4 player list, including the new excellent driving game Muddy Races. Psycho Zone from Cytronic is also a pretty decent variation on the old Sega arcade game Action Fighter, and Shaolin, also from Cytronic, is a single screen action beat 'em up that is super fun and satisfying. It's just a real shame it's only one screen, as this game could have been really epic if it was expanded or had more options. And the last game to mention here is a game which you may be surprised is not on the list, and that's It's Magic 2, a 2001 platformer with lush graphics, really good music, and high production values. It really wants to be Thalamus's Creatures, but alas, it's very, very far from that, with some of the most monotonous and dull and frustrating gameplay you'll ever encounter. Don't play it if you have a short temper, because you'll probably end up destroying your C64, and I really don't want to hear a story like that.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Okay, so now it's time for my number one game.
And number 1 is...
Newcomer was originally released in 1994, but we are looking at the much updated 2001 version released through Protovision in physical form. It's an adventure RPG hybrid designed by Cinematic Intuitive Dynamics, who is a Hungarian team that spent 10 years making the game, spread out over 8 double-sided discs for a truly mammoth gaming experience. This game is one hell of a ride in the best possible way, with lush cutscenes, characters to interact with, and many puzzles to solve, RPG-style battles to take part in, and with very much non-linear gameplay with sometimes multiple solutions to situations and events. Part of the draw of this game is the story and characters. Without spoiling too much, you end up in a prison island after you murder your wife's lover in an epic intro sequence. But the catch is you don't remember getting here, and the prison is unlike anything normal, so what is really going on is the real question. Like a traditional RPG, you can get characters to join your party to help you out in the adventure. Unlike most RPGs though, the battles aren't random but are now part of the story gameplay elements. Upgrading skills, earning money, and interacting with the over 100 unique characters will help you expand the story, solve the puzzles, and immerse you in this unique world. It's a truly amazing game with sublime graphics and fantastic music, and I played it completely on keyboard. It's not perfect though, with disc swapping slowing things down dramatically. And if you have no patience or time, this is definitely not a game for you. It is also a PAL format game only, but if you're playing it through emulator, this is no real issue, as you can simply switch between PAL and NTSC. This is one of the rare RPGs made for the C64 in the last 20 years, and is also a must-play for fans of this genre. Everyone else may find it too slow or cumbersome, but still a truly epic achievement on the old C64 worth celebrating. And thanks again for joining me, Bastich B, for another episode of Top 10s. If you can please like and subscribe, that'll be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.